Miao Ying, the Storm Dragon. Is there anything else I really need to say? It is, without a doubt, one of the most stunning miniatures ever to come to Warhammer the Old World, and I'm very excited to paint it in today's video. I'm going to be going for a very different scheme than it is on the box, and I think my one turned out pretty good. So if you want to see what that looks like, please do stick around to the end of this video. Before I get into the video, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone out there that supports the channel, and make sure to continue supporting the channel. The easiest way to support is to make sure you like the video, comment, and make sure that you're subscribed. If you want to help support us even further, there's things like Patreon and becoming a channel membership linked down below. And please don't forget about our affiliate links for things like Element Games, My Hobby Place, and Underworld Gaming here in Ireland. If you want to get your hobby products at a cheaper price and a little kickback to us, that's the best place to do it. All right, without further ado, let's dive in and get this awesome dragon painted. So this is Miao Ying, the Storm Dragon, one of the most epic miniatures that has ever come out for Warhammer the Old World, if I do say so myself. I think it's absolutely incredible. So I got the model constructed. I left off her shoulder armor pieces because I'm going to be doing a lot of dry brushing on the scales and they would have definitely gotten in the way. So I'm going to glue them on a little bit later on in the video. I didn't want the base to be just like completely flat with then just the rocks poking through. So I did add a layer of cork and I kind of whittled it down and kind of made it blend in a little bit better, just so it's not a super flat base. And then I got the model sprayed with a nice solid coat of black. And from here, I was going to start my dry brushing journey to get the scales on this model looking the way I want. So I wanted to go from kind of like a pale bone all the way up to like almost like a pure white. My inspiration from this is the dragon from Shang Chi. Whenever that movie came out, I loved the whole style, the whole aesthetic of it. And when that dragon burst out of the river or the lake and came swooping around, I was in love. I knew I wanted to paint something like that at some stage. And then they brought out this miniature and all of my problems were solved. So obviously, as you can see, I'm going with Morghast bone as the first coat, and I'm going for more of a heavy overbrush than a dry brush. I'm trying to get kind of a solid coat. It's very much okay if in some of the deepest, darkest recesses, there is still a black remaining. As you can see, I've left some black behind. But for the most part, we want a fairly solid coat. From here, we jump up to Ushabti bone and we just start dry brushing. This is like a medium dry brush. We want to leave a good amount of Ushabti bone behind, but we're not trying to obscure a lot of the previous paint. It's kind of the most unnoticeable of steps. You can't really tell on camera that it is doing anything, but I promise you it is leaving behind some of the Ushabti bone and adding just a little bit more warmth to the color. From here, we're going to go up to Wraithbone, which is a lot purer, and obviously it's going to be quite a nice jump here. Originally, when I started this, the reason I showed those three paints at the beginning of the videos, I felt that those three paints were going to give me the results that I wanted. But when this last, quotation marks, last dry brush was on, I thought it was still just a little bit too dark for my liking. I wanted to punch the color just a little bit more. And obviously, I had reference pictures of the dragon from Shang-Chi up on my screen. And that did kind of go into almost a pure white. So I decided at the end that I think I would do that, and I pushed it one step further and added a nice light dry brush of white in as the final one. And I think that's the fun thing about painting. If you don't like something, you can always push it a little bit further or pull it a little bit back. This is what it looked like, and it did look really nice, but it wasn't kind of popping like I thought it would in my head. So that's where I went for my ceramite white. And just like I said, I'm going very light, just catching the sharpest edges of all of the scales. Very lightly rubbed up over the face to give the effect that I want. And I think it was definitely the right choice. You can see the stomach and belly now. I think it's exactly the tone that I want to. And I am really happy that I pushed it for a fourth dry brush across the body. I know 4 dry brushes seems a lot, but this only took maybe 10 minutes to do all 4 dry brushes across the model. Spent more time washing out the brush than I did doing anything else. Now we have the dangerous paint, which is Blood Angel's red contrast, and we're going to block in all of the armor panels and fins and stuff like that across this model, including that huge big mop of glorious hair. And obviously we have the scales the color we want. We are not going to be touching those scales again. So when I got to this stage, obviously I was taking my time. I was holding my breath. I did not want to get that red anywhere where it wasn't supposed to be, because there was no way of going back and fixing it. At least no easy way to go back and fix it. So as you can see, I am moving slowly and I am going scale by scale down the back of this model. There was a little bit of debate as to how much of the model should be red. The entire belly scales, I wanted them to be red. The glorious Laura decided she didn't think it should be red. I for once went against her wishes, and I did them in red, and I think it turned out the right way. She conceded that I was right for once on that point, and I was really happy with it. So you will see in a minute the model just explode into red, and once you see the kind of finished dry brush on the scales and then all the red blocked in, I think you can see the vision of what I wanted for this dragon, and I think it looks really, really cool. Maybe I'm biased though. Shang Chi was one of my favorite movies. I love that movie. So I was more than happy to delve into that lore a little bit. Having said that, I can't remember what that dragon is called. I think I should have looked it up before doing the speaking bit of this video, but no, that would have been intelligent. Anyway, but here is all the red done. Obviously, his armored bits across his like biceps going down its forearms, his protection across his fingers, giant back scales, belly scales, the hair on the side of its little beard. And obviously that big mane of hair going down his back. And it was at that point that I was like, I'm in love. I can't wait to see what this model is going to look like finished. Some keen-eyed people may have noticed that I did indeed leave some other parts off of this model as apart from the big shoulder armor pieces I talked about earlier. And that is those big glorious kind of whisker pieces that are very traditional for Japanese dragons, or Chinese dragons, apologies. But they were already, like, one of them was already broken in the kit, which was annoying as it was. But they were such fragile pieces. And I feel like if you had glued them on, like, before this process, I would have just broken them off during the painting process. And when I got to the end, I didn't feel like there was something missing. So I would rather not have those kind of fragile pieces exist on the dragon at all. So I'm never going to glue them on. They literally go in where the nostrils go. So there's no like weird holes in the face that it looks like there's something missing. You don't even notice it at all. And I think I'm happier with this as a solution. I plan on using my army of Cathay quite a lot in games. Therefore, I'm going to be obviously putting my grubby mitts across his model and pushing it around the tabletop and having it smash into other models and stuff. So I think not having those fragile whisker bits on is going to be the way for me. As you can see, I got some brown texture paste all over the base, and then I gave it a light dry brush of Rise of Rust and a light dry brush of Bone, just to do my standard, like every single Warhammer Old World video, like model I'm doing is the same basing style. I want that old traditional like green field mats, trees, hills, like fantasy villages. That's the theme and stuff that I'm going with, and that's what I'm happiest with. So everything will match that. Maybe dwarves and night goblins will be in an underground color, but who knows. Okay, Mephiston red, Evil, Sun Scarlet, and Wild Rider red. This is where the majority of time when painting this model goes to. I'm going to layer up every single section of this dragon that is red with 3 stages, starting with Mephiston red, going up to Evil Suns, and then Wild Rider. That may seem quite excessive, but I think it does make a lot of sense when you see the final result. Although the dragon would be considered a white dragon, white is not a color that your mind like processes as like a primary color. It's not the focus. Like if you look down on a model that's mostly white, it's not the white that you notice first. It's all the other colors. Take White Scars, for example. White Scar Space Marines are absolutely beautiful, but they contrast all that white with a whole host of red and other colors just to have some sort of visual interest for your eyes. And that's what the red is going to do with this dragon. When the person picks up the model or looks closely, I'm sure they will notice the nice white scales and sharp detail and stuff, but at a glance, the red is what's going to stand out to them the most. So I think putting the most amount of time and effort into the red makes the most sense. I'm going to be showing you basically all 3 steps down the kind of neck scales and then down that left front arm or right front arm if you're a stage rider thing. The one my thumb is on right now. And I'm going to be doing all 3 steps down that so you can see what the final result of the red is going to be. And then obviously I went away and spent 2 hours layering up all the rest of the dragon, all the colors, without having to worry about if it was in frame or anything like that, which can be quite annoying and something I'm not very good at. I don't want to talk about how much footage there exists out there of a bit of a model that's on screen and then just my cutting mat, but never mind. But as you can see, because of the way the design is with the scales, we can just do a beautiful feathering down motion. So think about the 3 different like the paints that we're going to, which means you could go kind of like 2/3 up the scale and feather down, and then you could go 1/3 up the scale and feather down with the next color, and then with the last color you just go along the edges, adding the sharpest bit of detail to it. And that will give you a nice fade between reds. We're not trying to glaze or wet blend or anything like that. Feathering is like those techniques. It's just a little bit easier. It gives a little bit of a kind of choppier result, which I think looks really nice and looks really natural. I did exactly those same 3 colors across the hair, but as you can see, I switched to a dry brush. There was no way I was going to try and dry brush individual strands of hair. So yeah, just same 3 colors, going in, going lighter with each dry brush and focusing more on the kind of upper parts of the hair as you go on will give you a really nice result. Because the strands of hair are quite large, like to a human being, it would be like a, I don't know, like a skipping rope or something. It means the dry brush just catches it really easily and it gives a really nice effect. I couldn't help myself. I did end up recording a little bit of footage of me going down the kind of back plates and armor parts of the dragon. Just kind of wanted to make people understand the same concept with the back armor and the fins, obviously, because the back armor will be exactly the same as the stomach armor. But when it comes to the fins, you want to basically do the same steps, except you're trying to focus like up the membranes. And then obviously you're going for the center of the flap bit, I guess. And you're leaving kind of the edges in between both of the membranes a little bit darker. And like I said, focusing on the center and going a little bit tighter into the center and a little bit tighter into the center with each color as you go along. So you can see here, as I'm applying this color here, I'm not going near the membranes with the final highlight, but I am going on the membranes, if that makes any sense. Maybe I described that horribly, but hopefully you understood what I was trying to get at. And although it was quite time consuming, I was enjoying seeing the progress of the dragon coming along and that red really starting to pop. Okay, Morghast bone for all of the teeth. Obviously we put Volupus pink on all of the gums. Morghast bone covers up all that kind of dry brush work we did, which will give us a nice result like this. We wanted to add a little bit of warmth into the mouth, so Reikland Flesh Shade was then used and paint into and across all of the gums and all of the teeth. And then we simply went back later on with colors like Screamer Pink, use Shapty Bone to highlight the gums and the teeth on the dragon. The mouth is obviously another seriously focal point of this model. When people look down on it, they will notice that as one of the first details. So spending that extra time on things like gums and teeth will actually make a huge difference. Okay, I have glued the shoulders on. Now that the red is complete and the white skin and scales is dry brushed, I can put that armor plate on. You can see how much it would have covered and how awkward it would be to try and dry brush around those pieces if I had glued them on before. Now it is time for Retributor Armor Gold. And obviously I'm going to have to do multiple coats because I'm going from raw grey plastic, which I've never done in a video before, but you can do. It's just not advisable. I just wasn't really bothered to go away and try and spray those 2 parts. Late last night I was up till an obscenely late time trying to get this video ready for you guys. I know I'm a little bit behind, but hopefully we can get it out not too late into the day for you. But yeah, Retributor Armor Gold was then applied. Like I said, on the chest piece, we still needed 2 coats because going gold over black is quite difficult. And over the grey plastic, you're going to have to get 2 coats for it to be nice and solid. But it will give us a solid coat of gold if you just be patient and get her done. So that's what we did. There's also a lot more gold in like the hairband thingies in the hair, and there's like buckles holding on the straps of the armor on the back and stuff. So make sure you do find all the little straps that are supposed to be gold and get them done. After that's fully dried, we went in with Reikland Flesh Shade and we shade all of those pieces. All the gold's going to add a nice bit of warmth to it, settle into the recesses, add some kind of definition and shading. And it just makes sense. I've always used Reikland Flesh Shade for Reikland Flesh Shade or Seraphim Sepia for gold. I think they both work really good. After that, we're going to go for Gehen's Gold, and we're just going to give it a kind of a rough dry brush / stipple across the gold. Once again, adding a little bit more texture and a little bit more life back to the gold. Now, this dragon is, of course, ancient. It's an old, like epically old dragon. Therefore, I think its armor and equipment would be almost like museum pieces, if you will. They will be old, they will be patinaed, they will be scratched and scuffed, at least in my head. So that's what I'm going to do with these pieces. So I'm going in with a light dry brush of silver, once again to catch all those sharp edges and make them pop. But then after that, I don't want the kind of gaudy gold to draw too much attention away. So I'm going to add in some Nihilic Oxide. Now, originally, as I started the process of applying this, I went for the traditional way of using, which is to go along kind of crevices and cracks and anywhere where, like the way I describe Nilix oxide is things oxidize where water gathers. So I think it would kind of in pools and stuff. Now, people always get on to me and give out to me whenever I oxidize gold because gold doesn't patina. I know that. I just think it looks really cool. So there's no need to give out to me for doing it wrong. I just like it. It's my war dolly. I'll do whatever I want with it. But in the end, I decided to actually stipple it on in some of the flatter areas of it, which did give that kind of ancient bronze color to it. And I think it looked really cool and added a really nice like touch to the model. Something a little bit more unique and something a little bit more kind of different, which is what I was going with. I was going to go kind of as far away from the box art as possible. Not that I dislike the box art, just I'm not a huge fan of purple. So doing something different was definitely on the cards for me. Like I said earlier, we grabbed that Screamer pink and just very lightly touched up the gums anywhere where they're raised, anywhere you can get a brush at and get a really nice kind of little dot of highlight. That's what you're going to do with that Screamer pink. And then, like I said, use Shapty Bone, and we're going to go up the tooth. So what I do is I usually go like 2/3 of the way up the tooth, and I just feather down to the sharp bit. So I leave the bit close to the gums, nice and dark and washed. And it gives a really nice result. Those sharp gleaming teeth. And obviously it's quite a bit of a distinction from the skin, which is an important step. You don't want them to just look the same. Berserker Bloodshade was then the next color I used, and I wanted to add a little bit of definition to certain areas of the face. So I painted the eyes with Averland Sunset, so it's a slight yellow one. When that was fully dried, I went in with this Berserker Bloodshade, and I basically did like eyeshadow around the eyes and the eyelids and stuff to add a little bit of darkness. I fed this into like the nostrils, into like creases in the kind of inner parts of the ear. I didn't want them to just be the flat dry brushing bone that we went through the whole time. So adding that Berserker Bloodshade I think was the right choice and gave us a really nice bit of definition on the face. All of the gemstones, I simply blocked them out with some black paint and making sure to get a nice solid coat. And then I did Warpstone Green, so I went from bottom left across and I fed it up the right hand side, and then I moved to Moot Green and did exactly the same step but on kind of the inside of Warpstone, leaving some Warpstone behind. A dot of white in the top left corner, and then just a little bit of Ard Coat gloss over the top will give you some very easy to do, very accessible gemstones. You can do that with any colors you want. Just pick two colors, whether they be two reds, light and dark, or two yellows, light and dark, and then just exactly the same effect, and it looks great. Some dirty down moss for those kind of pristine kind of rocks rising out of the ground. I fed them all in and around where they're going to touch the ground, and then any nooks and crannies and even a bunch of the flat surfaces. I wanted that the kind of age to be seeping through the model, and I thought the rocks just looked a little bit too pristine for me, a little bit too kind of sculpted architecture digest model kind of thing, like from a garden video. So I just wanted to add lots of moss to it, and I think that looked great. Then I went in with my wacky doodle way of adding flock, which is to add a lot of super glue to the base, press it down, flick it from the bottom till it comes off, and just repeat that process in all the different patches and areas that I want the flock to be. With that applied, we had our finished Miao Ying dragon. The storm dragon is now complete, ready to be fielded on the tabletop, or at least it would be if I had the second model from this set built and painted. I will have to get to her in the very near future so that I can actually use it in games. But I must say I am really delighted with the final result that I did achieve from this dragon. I really like the idea of going with the Shang Chi style dragon. I think on the tabletop this scheme will stand out like a crazy amount from anything else you're going to see. And obviously I can't wait to get the rest of this army painted up on the table. Please do let me know what you think of my scheme and what you think of this whole process in the comments below. Hopefully you enjoyed watching. And if you did, do all those beautiful things like comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.